We are once again recording the 39 Days podcast with Alex and Andrew. I'm Andrew, and there's Alex.
Hello.
What's going on, everyone? We promised we'd be back this weekend, and here we are recording this Sunday night, so right between the weeks. Alex, what's going on, man? We're here recapping, I don't want to say an uneventful episode, but
so
it was an episode.
It was definitely an episode. It's one of those, the season just started. There's, everyone's still kind of feeling everything out. They're getting used to, their tribes and stuff. And it's just one of those, stuff happens, but not much of it is going to affect the end game. So it's not exactly filler, but it's more just early game stuff that, it's the beginning of Survivor where, the weaker people are being voted off, as we saw tonight.
Which is actually interesting because there's been a weird shift in recent seasons where they've kind of shied away from, let's just vote the weaker person out, to, let's keep our individual alliances strong.
Yeah.
And there's been some stronger players going out pretty early just because they didn't fit in or they had a brash personality. So it's interesting how there's only 3 or 4 unique strategies for any season to play out, and they kind of pinball back and forth between each season, right? Everyone has a different idea. You only have 18 to 20 people play each season, so you have limited game plays, and it always seems to. I'm just interested in how that kind of goes back and forth.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree because I didn't think that Nneka would be voted out just because of the fact that she had a very good relationship with Cody and Jesse.
And it's sad too because she made a big point of saying, what was it when Dwight was talking to her? Noelle was away, and they were basically like, well, it's going to be Noelle. And Nneka said, I'm not going to turn my back on Cody and Jesse. So basically, that's 3 people. We're all voting one direction. It's either going to be you or Noelle. Well, I'm talking to you, so let's just vote Noelle. It'll be an easy vote. And then the 2 people who she swore she wouldn't turn on had to make a tough decision to vote her out. Because I think the alternative, as we saw, is Jesse is way more on the chopping block than I personally would like.
Yeah, exactly.
So they kind of said, look, let's just take the low-hanging fruit in our alliance. We'll go down to 4, 2-2. I still think, Cody still has that immunity idol. Noelle has
a steal a vote.
Now, is there a limit to when she can use that?
I don't think there was, no.
Okay, so probably maybe final 6 or something if they let her go that long. Usually
that's normally the cutoff. No, this tribe, just the decision to vote off Nneka was an interesting one to me just because it really showed that Cody and Dwight were a lot more, or not Cody and Dwight, Cody and what's his name? Jesse, yeah, God. It's fine, it's Sunday night. They were much tighter between the 2 of them than they were as the group of them and Nneka. And they were a lot more focused on tribe strength than they were alliances, which is just interesting to me because one of the big focuses last week was that Jesse was playing both sides. And now if they opted to vote for tribe strength instead of alliances, that kind of shows everyone knows he's playing both sides, and they're just trying to make it so that they don't have to go to another tribal.
Yeah, and to be honest, as far as he's concerned, I don't think he thinks he's playing both sides. I think he's just willing to work with everyone on his tribe. And I know it's kind of the same thing, but
it comes off though as he's playing both sides, which is the problem for him. I agree with you on that. But, for Noelle and Dwight, who kind of viewed themselves as on the bottom, now it's just kind of like an even ground because it's 2 and 2.
Right. And she has a steal vote, which is technically a 2-vote swing if they need to go that way. So they hold all the power. And Jesse's getting his vote taken away if they go to tribal again.
Yeah. Well, and especially because I don't know if they... Who else knows that Cody has an idol? Is it just?
I would think just Jesse.
Dwight? I thought Dwight knew. Dwight was there when he found it.
So maybe Dwight thought that he was going to lose his vote and he was able to vote. So
exactly.
Okay.
So it might just be Noelle that doesn't know. But if they're on the bottom, I would imagine Dwight would tell her.
You would think,
Yeah.
but again, if she's going to steal, well, that's the thing. If he's going to play his, like, let's say they lose this week, right? And Cody's going to play his idol. The only people who could go home were the other three. If Noelle's going to steal a vote, she has 2 of the 4 votes, so she's probably safe in that scenario. So you think it's going to be Jesse, but then do they kind of work up some strategy and say, well, maybe we just turn on Cody and try and get him to get comfortable so he doesn't play the idol, and then flush that, and then Jesse's by himself. Best case for those guys is just win next week.
The next challenge, yeah. And I think they are in a better spot now because they did vote out NECA, and that's not, no offense to her at all, but she really dropped the ball in the challenges. She basically both times she said that she was good at puzzles, and then she didn't exactly come through with the puzzles. Yeah.
So I will say, if you look at the trajectory of season 41 and 42, they merged they did the not merge at 13. They sent the one person to
I thought they did it at 11.
Was it 11?
I think it was 11 for both of them.
Okay, so then there's a ways to go. I was thinking you could survive 2 more tribals. You probably make a merge. But I know they're getting away from the hourglass twist this season. So
are they?
Yeah, so maybe they do 11 or 12. The point is, there's still a lot of gameplay to be had.
Yeah.
And it is funny, though, if you think about where we were this point in season 42, there's a lot less advantages in the game right now. Now,
and I think that's definitely on purpose. Because
there's some idols.
Yeah.
One of them expires pretty soon. So
after the next time
he goes to
after the next yellow tribal.
Right. And then the other 2 that are in play are
on the other 2 tribals.
Cody's and Carlos, which we can talk about. But remember, in season 42, everyone had different advantages. There was the Gambit advantage. There was steal votes. There was.
It was funny because 42 was like one of the things with 41 was that they had so many different advantages floating around because, again, 41 was a crapshoot. They had no idea what was going to happen with that season because it was the first one after COVID. And then 42, because it was filmed right after, they threw even more advantages with the amulet, like you said, and there was more steal votes and extra votes and idols and everything. And there were times where the amount of advantages in the game, especially in the last 2 seasons, have been overwhelming, and we've gone over that in very great detail. But this one, I do like that it's more balanced. It's like you still have the ship wheel island that I guess we can still call it, even though there's no more ship wheel.
Big Rock Island.
I do really like how they're doing that for this season, though, where it's basically instead of making individual decisions, you as a group decide what to do, because that really helps it. That helps you build bonds with other people and doesn't make it such an individual game, because that was one of the problems.
And we saw it this week where Noelle flat out said, "Look, I'm on the
bottom. I'm in trouble.
If you guys help me get this advantage, I'm gonna, you earn yourself some goodwill. I'll definitely pay it forward to you when we get to emerge. You have an ally with me, someone who would vote with you, who would help you out." And look, it worked to her advantage because she may have been on the chopping block. Well, I guess we'll never really know, right? Cody and Jesse flipped on NECA, so maybe they never were targeting Noelle anyway. It's not like she had an idol that she could have saved herself if she had 3 votes, but yeah, I do like that idea rather than just, oh, hey, talk to these people, get to know each other.
Yeah.
Although, part of the fact
and then when you get to the top of this hill, oh, by the way, you're just going away from each other now.
Yeah, and seeing 41 and 42 may help to that end, though, because they probably knew, hey, look, we're going to spend some time together, and then there's going to be a decision at the end, so they do have that. But it is interesting that in 41, 42, they didn't know that, and it was kind of just how much do you trust someone?
Yeah.
Someone's going to get burned, or someone's going to play it safe, and someone will be aggressive and benefit from that. Whereas here, now you're seeing people trying to get ahead of it, so you see the other side of the gameplay, like having that foresight.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about Carla though.
I was just going to say, let's talk about Carla, because she did something that this is the third season of the Beware Advantage that we've had. And she did something no one has ever done so far, which is see it and initially leave it. And that was something I thought was very, very significant, because
which was on brand though, because she went to the island in
Yeah.
the first episode, I believe.
and that
she
was her
flat out
entire
said-
reasoning.
Yeah, she basically said, your vote is way more important than any other advantage.
Mhm.
At this early in the game, I'm not going to risk anything.
Yeah.
And she made the same decision when she got the Beware Advantage. I cannot lose my vote. Period.
Mhm.
Stop.
And then she kind of had a moment of clarity where she was just kind of thinking, she was like, I think she was thinking about her wife and how her wife would have wanted her to take the idol and just do what she could to win and not pass up a possible advantage like that. So
Right,
she
and
didn't
was
end up
talking
taking it.
to, what was it, James? She was talking to try and get some feedback on
Mhm.
what he would do if he found it.
Yeah.
Kind of pushed her over the ledge.
Mhm.
So
Well,
I
and
get it.
that type of thing is what makes this season so much different from the first two, because these tribes have seen the first two, so they can talk about, what would you do if you saw a Beware Advantage, where in the first 41 and 42,
You said
Beware
that. they'd be like,
Advantages.
what the hell's a Beware Advantage?
Yeah, exactly. And then she went around and, successfully got all the beads, which she did a very good job of convincing everyone. She was bartering her earrings off for people, which her earrings were super cool looking. So I kind of feel bad for her, because if I was her, I would have hated to lose those.
I can't imagine she would have brought something that had a high dollar amount.
That's also very true. Yeah. But give her a lot of credit, because this was a very strong episode for her. She really, showed that she's a strong player. She's one that she's smart, and she's going to, I can't see her being, under any crosshairs anytime soon.
It's so funny that as soon as we saw just the pictures of the full tribes, I was like, Carla, winner, put it in the books. And then of course I forgot about it.
And then you forgot about it and
when we
picked
did the
Jesse. Yeah.
draft. But yeah, she's a gamer.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I give her credit. Then the other big thing that happened was on Yellow Tribe Go.
Baka.
There we go. I knew I was going to say Baka or Bessie. I knew it wasn't Coco. No, Coco's blue. Okay, good. Getting better. One of the big things that they've been trying to do is figure out when Gabler's idol expires, because he found it in the first episode, and then it said it expires after 2 tribals. They ended up finding out later, last episode,
If Janine
that
was going
it's-
through his bag and read it and said
Yeah.
the first 2 tribals that you
first
go
2
to.
tribals that you go to. But Ellie then got the idea. I believe it was her that had this entire idea.
Yeah.
She was the one that executed it, that they weren't sure whether or not Gabler knew that it was 2 tribals that he went to, not 2 tribals in general.
So they tried to bait his own ignorance, which I respect the gameplay in a sense, but it was so poorly done.
It was so
because-
poorly
'cause he
done.
was keen to it.
And Sammy also told him. He went up to him and basically said, because he felt like the girls were not being as truthful with him as they could have been.
Right.
So he went up to Gabler and basically said, the girls are trying to trick you into thinking that your idol is not, doesn't have any power anymore.
Right.
So Gabler, when Ellie brought it up to him, basically just said, yeah, I'm just gonna, it'll be a nice souvenir for my daughter. Which was such a good line on his part, because that sealed the deal right there.
But now that they know that she wouldn't have asked that unless she knew, and he obviously knows what the real rules are, it puts a big target on her back.
It
for
does.
trying to fish
yeah.
for that information and try and, I don't want to
Well-
say expose him, but like maybe get him to reveal that he doesn't know as
Mhm.
much. And to be honest, if I was Gabler in that situation, I think I like the way he played it. It was
I do
smart,
too. Yeah.
but he also could have been like, no, I think it's done, and just feigned ignorance of
Mhm.
that. And then
The thing is that whole scenario, I like what Gabler did. I respect Ellie and Janine's plan to pull that off. Like, that's a
Right.
really good plan. They just executed it terribly, because they could have just kept that between themselves, but then they had to tell Sammy about it, and he, obviously they couldn't trust him with that, so he told Gabler.
right.
But like you said, that puts a giant target on Ellie's back because now Gabler and Sammy both are going to not trust the girls at all, especially if they know that they're trying to essentially trick them into not using an idol.
Right. So at this point, you're really starting to see some tribal lines form.
Mm.
We already talked about Vesey, and they're down to 4, and there's a pretty clear 2-2 split.
Yeah.
The only one we really don't know where everyone stands is Coco, because they haven't been to tribal.
They haven't been to tribal. They haven't lost
And
the challenge yet.
I'm trying to think where, like, was that the one where the women wanted to play together? And then Carla was like, "Oh yeah, totally," but no.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Cassidy and
It's Cassidy. The women on that tribe are
Lindsay.
Cassidy, Carla, and Lindsay, and then it's Gio, James, and Ryan.
You know what? And that might have actually been Vesey. That was the women playing together. It would have been Justine and Noelle.
Maybe
Because
that is what it was. Yeah.
Okay. So we don't really know where Coco stands right now.
They've gotten some screen time so far, but Carla's idol and everything. But for the most part, it's only really just been showing off that they're a very strong tribe. They've already, formed a lot of bonds with each other, and that's kind of it.
And it's really hard to gauge where they are as players just because they haven't gotten enough screen time and they haven't had to go to tribal. That really,
if they end up losing a challenge, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about with that, just because they're going to be scrambling. They don't know what it's like to have to go to tribal yet. So
if you had to guess, completely blind right now, let's say they lose this week. Who's the first person out on Coco?
First person out on Coco. I'm gonna go with Cassidy.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Just because I don't really have a good reason.
Okay.
I think Carla has a very good social game. I think Lindsay is just kind of there.
Yeah.
Ryan and James, Ryan especially, there's out of the 6 of them, the person who definitely wouldn't get voted out is Ryan.
See, that's why I would actually say Ryan, because it doesn't make sense to vote out your strongest challenge player. But because we haven't seen any tribe do that, I'm just going to YOLO it and say,
really?
Why not, right? It doesn't have to make sense.
It doesn't make it does, and it doesn't make sense at all either. But I could totally see something going crazy like that. Yeah. Well, I mean, and think about it. Like, if they're say they absolutely botch the hell out of this upcoming challenge,
right?
And Ryan was no help at all. They could have the mentality of, okay, he wasn't as strong as he looks in this challenge. And we probably could survive hypothetically in another 1 or 2. So why don't we get a really strong guy out now before he even becomes a threat in the future?
Yeah.
Which is not a bad mentality to have.
But here's the other thing too. Like we kind of saw with Jonathan in 42. If someone's best asset is their physical game and they don't see, Jonathan did have some good alliances, but it was just by proximity. It was with people in his tribe.
Well, Jonathan also had a very his attitude pissed off a lot of people.
Right. But what I'm saying is for Ryan, it's hard to say because we haven't seen too much of their tribe, but let's say his best asset is his physical strength. And let's say he lacks in the social game or doesn't have as strong alliances. There's really no harm in keeping them for strength for a while because at any given moment they're gonna slip up. They can't possibly win every single individual immunity. Well, and the first time they don't, they're easy.
And just going along with the Jonathan comparison, it's like strength nowadays is not what wins games for people.
Right.
You have to have some semblance of a social game. So if Ryan is all strength, no social game at all, there's no harm in keeping him until the merge, say until the final 6 or 7, whenever, and say if he's the best option at that time, because you want someone else to be given the opportunity to win immunity challenges, then you can vote him out.
So I'm trying to think outside of returning player seasons, because they usually recycle immunity challenges that they've played previously. Has there been a recent winner that won more than one individual immunity at any point in the game. I know Tony, we just said because in Winners of War won like 3 or 4, but I said I'm going to exclude that to push this narrative here.
Ben in 35 won a bunch of them.
Is that the first one you could think of? Because that's 6 years ago. 7 years ago. That's
well, it's like 38 doesn't really factor in because Chris Underwood was on edge of extinction for a lot of it.
Yeah.
39, Tommy, I don't think he won maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, I feel like Lauren won more than him.
Nick Wilson won.
Probably won at the end, and that
won
was
at the end. Yeah, and Wendell
maybe.
Yeah,
so it is funny.
Sarah in 34 won, maybe one. Yeah, so it's not. Let's see. I think in 41, Erica won maybe one.
I think just one. Yeah.
I don't even think Marianne won one last season.
Right. So my point is, it's funny how you always need it to feel good about yourself, and it's usually a good barometer of if you're a good social player and you pick off a few immunity wins as well. It's like, yeah, this person's a layup to win.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't need to win at all. As long as you're not at the bottom of the votes, you can kind of just float.
As long as you have the Sandra mentality of, as long as it's not me. Like, you think about it, how many immunity challenges did Sandra win in her 4 seasons she played?
I think she won the most in her first season.
Yeah. I think she maybe won 1 in Heroes versus Villains, and she didn't make the verge in the other 2. But, both seasons that she won, I want to say 2 in Pearl Islands.
Sounds right.
And maybe 1 in Heroes versus Villains.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I could be wrong, but I don't think she won 1.
I'm saying maybe 1.
Right.
I would say odds are none, but yeah, it's like, as long as you are not the target, because winning immunity challenges, you think about it, you're safe for that tribal, but it does put a big target on your back because you've then showed off that you're capable of winning. Just think about Tori last season. She went out after the merge and won the first 2, and they immediately were like, "Oh shit, she's a problem." I
think we were worried about that, right? Because we had kind of just written her off like, whatever. And then I remember watching at home, like, oh, is Tori suddenly going to rise up the ranks and be a threat to win this? But
and then they vote.
As soon as you believe that, boom, they're gone.
Yeah, I think it was the first one she lost. She ended up getting voted out after that.
Right.
Because winning immunity challenges puts a target on your back, especially if you pull off back-to-back ones.
Yeah. If
you win 1 and then like 2, after there's 2 tribals and then you win another one, you could kind of just chalk it up as like, oh, there was, they were good at whatever challenges. But if it's 2 challenges that are completely different from each other, like one's an endurance one, one's a puzzle based one, and you win both of them, that puts a huge target on you.
Correct.
Yeah, but like we said, this episode was a lot more, I would say, character building. We got to know everyone a bit more. We got to know people like Noelle and basically the entire Red Tribe a lot better. You knew that Carla got an idol. You understood the kind of dysfunction in Yellow is Baka. Yeah, I'm so good. But other than that, there was not that much that happened in this episode, I don't think.
Right. So looking forward to Wednesday night's episode, you had mentioned how important last week's was because at 655, it really does decide the direction if you have 654, which we are at, or if
it's
you're at 5 across the board evenly. So now that Coco has a 2-person advantage, they're going to be sitting out 2 people in any challenges. Vessi absolutely does not want to go back to tribal council. If they do, they're going to be in a really, really tough spot. So without throwing out a generic, what do you think is going to happen next week? Because how can you possibly know that? But what's going to be the most important thing you're looking for?
For me, it's going to be Vessi kind of putting their differences aside and working together. If they're going to survive, they're going to have to basically become the Jonathan, Marianne, Omar, Lindsay tribe of last season.
Right.
Because otherwise they're going to I don't think they are stronger than the other two tribes. So the only way that they can even match up to them is if they really get it together and just buckle down and do everything they possibly can.
Right. And of course, we have no idea what the challenge will look like. So
No.
it could be a puzzle one, and then they won't have NECA to bring them down. And then, but I think it would actually be pretty interesting if we see Baka lose another member. Because I want to see what happens with Gabler's idol. He's going to use it.
Yeah,
he has to. So he'd be safe.
I want to see what ends up habpening with that, because I think if Baka loses a challenge, I think it'll basically be the sides of Gabler and Ellie coming together, and that would put Sammy kind of right in the middle.
Sammy,
because that would put
Target too.
Yeah, it would become Gabler and Owen versus Janine and Ellie, and put Sammy kind of right in the middle.
Right, and I think he's leaning towards the boys right now.
That's what I think. Yeah.
So that would
and like we said, if Coco ends up going to tribal, it'll be absolute chaos.
Right. So I'm trying to think back to the preview, if there was any like big teaser or shocker line or something like that.
I saw a couple previews earlier. Just, it didn't really look like anything important was happening.
Okay.
It was just generic, like, oh yeah, the game is getting really tough right now. Forms of that from everyone.
Red herrings that we see.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, so then we really don't know what to expect.
Exactly.
So it'll just be another episode, and we'll be here to recap it next week.
Yeah, but I think that's all for now. What do you say?
Yeah, nice quick episode.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at 39 Days Pod. And
subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe to our
YouTube
podcast.
Yep, podcast available, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, as far as I know. And if it's not, let us know, and I'll handle that. But yeah, join us next week, and hope everyone has a great rest of their weekend.
Thanks so much, everyone.